Are you able to see?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so now what you need to do. How many people are there? Everybody is there or not? Still, there are a lot of people who are not there. Okay. Anyways, those who are there, you get started. We will. So what you need to do is you made the structure, okay, and now you need to fix it on the skirt, visualizing where and how you want it. Okay. So like if you can see in that picture, approximately it's been taken on like 1/4 of the space. Now this base actually has no meaning. We don't really, this base is just for us to be able to fix it to the skirt easily. So you can cut away unwanted part of it because it will unnecessarily become rigid and stiff. So you can reduce the base. You can make it only as much as you want. And the shape also does not matter, the shape of the base or anything. So I'm just making it like this and then placing it. I'll keep it this way, like keeping this angle downwards towards the hem and on 1/4 of the skirt, and that's where I'm keeping it. So keeping it like that, the next thing is to again put masking tape and fix it. Okay, fix it onto the skirt. Like fix it properly, put tapes everywhere. Is it clear what I'm saying? Don't leave gaps. Don't leave any kind of gaps. Put tape all the way through. Now I just fixed it. Now all the places I have to put a tape. Is this clear to everyone?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead and do it and then we'll proceed. And also keep a marker handy with you.
Ma'am, ma'am,
Yes. Yeah.
ma'am, I wanted to ask, do we have to stick on the front side of the skirt?
Yeah, stick it on the front side. See, actually, you can do it wherever you want, but if you've seen the image of the skirt that we are creating, that tunnel kind of effect will look good on the front only.
Okay, yeah, ma'am, I'll do that.
Ma'am,
Yes.
ma'am, do we need to record, like, do we need to click pics of each and every process that we
Yeah.
do?
Yeah. Do that. Do that. Do that.
Okay, ma'am. So, ma'am, actually, I've not done till the skirt from neck, like from here. If I do, is it okay?
Yeah, it's okay. Where are the other people? Why everybody is not joined today?
No idea, ma'am. We'll check in the group.
Okay, have you done till here?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Now you have to plan how you want your style lines. So see, you're going to get a structure which is going to come like this. Okay, it's going to be a three-dimensional structure. So what kind of style lines will look nice? What kind of fabric? What kind of colors? Do you want two colors, three colors? So you have to plan it like that. So at this stage, you have to start thinking now how can I create these style lines so that this particular structure looks even more, it can get more pronounced because it's three-dimensional. So I feel because it's giving this kind of a structure, so lines also which come out this way should look nice. Okay, and in any case, a very important aspect about 3D structure is that when you're creating 3D structures, when you're creating a pattern out of a shape which is three-dimensional, one principle to keep in mind is that wherever there, from whichever place the thing is becoming three-dimensional, that if you divide it further will give you a better, it will give a more pronounced 3D shape. So, so since this portion is round, so this, I mean, if we divide it in more number of parts, it'll get more of a round shape. But still, we can't divide it in so many. It's like simple thing. You've seen football, you've seen basketball, the way they are constructed. Have you seen? So, they're made out of smaller pieces. So if you've seen a football, it will have those hexagonal kind of pieces and multiple of them. So because of those multiple smaller pieces, it retains a roundness. Okay. Likewise, even in a basketball, you will find those, this kind of a structure, multiple of these structure attached to each other, which will help retain a round kind of a shape. So likewise, any kind of three-dimensional structure, if you want to create a roundness, you will have to divide it in more number of parts, or you have to make sure that the place where the turn is happening, the turning points, should have some style line passing through it. Okay, now you need to draw style lines. So I will draw style lines to show you, and then you can also draw, show me, and then you can draw them out with the marker. And after that, we are going to cut them. Okay, this is a rough work. This is a rough tool. So don't worry about the neatness or that, if you've done rough work on it, it doesn't really matter. So what I'm doing, I'm going to plan is that I will create style lines like this. So I have to continue these lines. So first approximately, like, I need to know how many parts I will divide. So I'm going to divide this into 5 parts. So you can roughly create those 5 parts. So this is what I'm doing. I've just divided it on the top. Okay. Now these lines need to continue into the skirt. So you can make corrections also. It doesn't matter. As long as you know what your final line is, that's okay. Because you will need to design something, na? It will take sometimes 1 time, 2 times. Okay. Now, are you able to see? It's not very clear, no? I'll just darken it up. Okay, now the thing is, okay, so this is how I've done it. Now, an interesting thing is that you can take these lines across on the other side also. Okay, so if your side is joined, you can easily take them, continue these lines. Like, for example, this line is ending here. So, I will continue it. So, I've continued these lines across on the other side. Uh, I think instead of ending it here, should I also continue this one? So you can make changes. Just cancel. For example, I'll just cancel this line. Okay, I think that's it. So can you see this line is continuing like that? This side it is also continuing. I've eliminated this one, and that's it. If I want, I can have a continuity of it here, but it is not required because this is the front and the back. They don't really have to. I mean, the waist it doesn't have to continue, but on the sides it looks attractive if you continue it. Okay, have I would like you all to do it, and then the next part is that now these lines, whatever these lines you made, will need notches, because what happens is when we separate all of them, we will end up otherwise having lost the what is to be attached to what. So especially a notch for this area, you will still have an idea because this paper here. So this is one notch where it is turning, and then you can have a notch at important places. For example, now here, this is towards the hem. Then I can have one notch for where the side seam was. Then other than the notch, you need to number them. Okay, number and code them, these patterns. So if you see how many parts I have divided into 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So I have total 5 parts only. So look at the continuity of each part and see, now this whole thing is one part. From here it is starting. This whole thing is starting here, continuing like this, and is ending over here. This whole thing is one same piece. Because of the way I made it, it's become like a spiral. It's starting here and it is ending here. Then this piece is finishing over here. So this is another piece. This piece is a third piece. So like that, you identify how many total number of pieces you have. I will hold over here. I want you all to see what lines you have made.
Ma'am?
This is how it's looking on a dress form. Like on the sides, it's coming out like a tunnel, but later we have the option of putting the tunnel inside. Okay.
Ma'am?
Yeah.
Ma'am, if I create 3 style lines, is it okay?
Yeah, it is okay.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
But if you have three, then your tunnel, the roundness will become like a triangle. Understood? The lesser you have, then this round thing will not remain round. It will have only three things, three lines. No.
Okay, ma'am. So,
So
ma'am,
then,
any minimum?
so minimum. See, frankly, I feel five is also less only. Five to curry low. You can maybe if you don't want to do too much over here, don't have to do too much. Make it simple, but keep this at least five. If unless your this thing is very small, like approximately, I'm getting each of these thing as equal to 1 inch. So that is good enough. Four minimum to four hai. Five is better. Six is even better. उसके beyond फिर it will become very difficult to stitch.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Welcome. Like this is what I'm trying to tell you. Straighten these lines. Straighten them as much as you can. Okay. So straighten them. Then, so now this is where let's say I start calling this one as one. Okay. So I'm just going to write over here one. So now I know this whole thing is one. So if I want, I can put these kind of that, so that there's no ambiguity that this thing is one. Okay. Now this is two. Okay. So these one and twos are simples. Okay. Okay, this is two. Now, this is my three. Now here you have to remember that this is for me, this is going across. So I will continue this. Okay, one, see. Even my 2 is also going across. Oh, see this, what is happening now? This is coming and back and joining at 1. So which means I didn't have to have 2 different ones. This could have continued, the same thing could have come here. So now I should probably call it 1 itself. Now, because I did this, I realized. So now let me call this whole thing as 1 and not call it 3, because when we are going to stitch it, it's going to be the same thing. So this again is 1. You understood? So just follow it through, see where it is going. So this will come back here. So this is same family. So I'm calling this both as 1. So 1, 2 is done. Now I need 3. So this is 3. This is, this whole thing is here. Okay. And this I cancelled, so it means this is going here also. And let's write the number again. Then this is 4. Okay. So this is 4. Now if I check, all of these are covered. Correct? Everything has been taken care of. Everything has been taken care of. And I have ended up with 4 parts instead of 5, because 1 is getting repeated. So now these 4 colors I can plan. 1 and this the alternate colors are going to be same, and the rest can be what I plan. So you all also mark it like that.
Ma'am,
Yes.
ma'am, the part which you have left like without any dots, The below part, we won't consider it as style line.
Which one?
Ma'am, near the hemline of the skirt.
Everything is a style line. This is also style line.
Ma'am, so the part, that line only. So we'll be cutting it at separate,
This one?
as a separate part, right? Yeah, this one.
Yeah, yeah. When I'll cut it, this will continue from here. This will all come like that. See, now this is also, so we are going to be doing seam displacement later also, but this is also seam displacement. So now we're not, these, see, this was the seam, right? Now we are going to disregard this seam and we are going to consider these as our new seam lines. So this is also going to be cut.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, there is any place where you have not marked notch, please mark it. And these notches should be prominent. Okay, now I'll start cutting and you'll cut clean lines. The cut, you'll have to cut through. Okay, sorry. Yeah, so there's one thing. Now when you attached here, this part over here, this hole, we have to get rid of it because we should be able to cut through it. So you can, so just get rid of this hole so that this hole now here becomes an open thing. And then continue your cutting and straighten the line wherever, like, now at the time of cutting you will be able to straighten it better. See, so you'll get this kind of a thing. Now see, this structure will not come like this. It'll come smooth when we're cutting it on paper because we're going to cut it like this. So it'll become, ouch. So that's why it's important to attach it very nicely. This should not come out because otherwise you will lose the pattern. Okay. So finally when we are going to cut it on fabric, we are going to cut flat. But because it is like this, so what we are going to get is something in between, like a smoother version of this. So that's why we're going to have that tunnel, like a smooth shape of the tunnel. So likewise, you have to cut all. Each of them should have this information. So you will get panels like this. Now see, this was continuing into this. So this is also actually a part of this one only. So like I was telling one of you now, that it's okay, you can attach it with a tape. So you can do that. So we can decide the openings later also. See, this was here. So I can fix it with a tape. It's not a problem because this is going to be used as a pattern and not, this is not going to be the garment final. Okay, so this is absolutely fine. No problem with taping it up. So now this is where my opening was earlier, but right now I've closed it. I will see where I want the opening later. So these are kind of dynamic processes. See, once you learn the technique, you can adapt it to something else. You can adapt it to any kind of garment. And probably what we are doing might be a little exaggerated. You can do like a toned down version as well. Okay. See this. See how this has come out. It's almost come like a spiral. If I was to cut the whole thing on one fabric, I could have done that also. And you know, you can do this method even if you don't do a tunnel. And if you attach goddess to a skirt and then do these kind of spirals, you can create pattern for spiral kind of skirts, which has seams on the spirals. Okay, now so this whole thing is one pattern. Over here, it is a different one. Anyone is saying anything? No, no. If you have any doubt, please feel free to ask. So this whole thing has now become ready in one color. Or if I divide it anywhere, I can make it in two different also. Okay, now this little thing got torn because I carried it the other day in my bag. It got spoiled. But it's not a problem because I have to use it like a straight line, I know that. Oops. You know what happened? I have cut on the line which I was not supposed to cut. So never mind. stick it back again. It's not a problem. This is the line which I wanted to cut. Alright. So this is ready. Whatever extra I had cut, I'll just stick it. That's not a problem because this is just a pattern process. Okay, so this is the last. So that's it. So I have these four pieces which are now going to be attached to each other. So on this. Now, this is the time, and while planning, now that you can see how it is going to look, if you want to add something to it, let's say while doing this or while putting it on the dress form, I realize that what if, you know, near the hem I extend this and keep like an asymmetrical hem, or extend this part of the hem. So all of that also can be done now. This is like your playing field, but don't play around with the style lines. So wherever it is ending, that part you want to do, for example, if this part, if I want to exaggerate it over here, so I can cut off some kind of lines here or attach something to this. So these kind of things you can think further. But other than that, do not play around with where your lines are joining to each other. Okay, now see, it is so important to have notches. Wherever there are notches, you will know that this is going to attach to this. Wherever there aren't notches, you will have a problem. See, this is attaching here. Probably a few more notches will also help. Because putting it back together is like a jigsaw puzzle. The more clues you give to yourself, the better it will be. Okay. So I want you to do it till here. And the next part after this is like I have four parts. So I'm going to do two in one color and two in another color. So alternate kind of colors. So the next thing is to place it on the other fabric and to cut it out with seam allowances. Now this on its own right now doesn't have seam allowances on these areas. So you will need to add seam allowances to such areas.
Ma'am, so basically
Yes,
what I've understood with that last sentence is that we'll have to add seam allowance to the style lines, right? Because for the other seams, while making the skirt, we have already given 1 centimeter seam. So we have not given
absolutely
any seam to the style line. So when
correct.
we will be doing this, we'll be basically adding seam allowance to the style lines.
Yeah. So
Okay,
for
got it.
example, now see this. Uh, so these are the style lines. So these will need seam allowances. Okay. And we will flatten this. So just flatten it down. Also, you can check the grain line. If you follow the grain line that was initially there, you will get similar kind of fall. Otherwise, this is also here and there. If you want to change the grain line, that's also okay. So if I'm trying to follow the grain line, this is how it is. So over here, I will add seam allowance and mark it. Okay, this whole part I can mark. Now this portion, if I want to keep a seam over here, then I will remove the tape and keep the seam. But I'm thinking why to keep the seam here at all. I could actually keep the opening like this in a diagonal and have press buttons or something. So why not? So there are options of putting opening anywhere else also. So I'm not going to keep the seam here. So all of these places, and this is the waist. So waist will not need seam allowance because when you had initially made skirt, like you said, it was already having seam allowance at the waist. So I don't need to do this. The rest of the places will add seam allowance, and so you can like go one by one, decide the color. If you want, you write the color on this so that you don't get confused while cutting. So if I have decided that I will put 2 and 4 on this fabric and 1 and 3 in the other fabric, then I will place it here, put the other one also, pin it up, mark around it, and cut it. Okay, so that's what you need to do next. I hope this is totally clear to everyone.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Ma'am, can you
So
please explain the seam allowance part again, ma'am?
yeah, so what I was saying is, for example, now if you see these parts, all of these parts, now this I have separated out no from the skirt, and when I have cut it, see this has got separated like this. But when I want to go, am I going to join it again? I will need a seam allowance here, no, in these seams. If I will join this to this on another piece of fabric, this will also need seam allowance, this will also need seam allowance. So therefore, these are like your pattern drafts. After making the draft, you always add seam allowance. So this also, when you're marking around it, you will add seam allowance to it. All of these portions, including this also. So you will add seam allowance to this place. The top you don't need to because that top is ending, so it doesn't matter. You want to add, you can add there also. So add seam allowance here, here, this place. Transfer your notches, and these styles, these lines, I am eliminating. I don't want these lines anymore. So I will not, I will just completely continue marking. This I will disregard that there was a joint over here. Okay, I will have now new joints, new seams. This seam also, it's gone. I don't want it anymore. Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
so
Ma'am, one question.
yeah.
Uh, while you're saying that we'll remove these side seams basically, do we have to like cut that 1 centimeter seam allowance or just ignore it completely and not do anything to it?
Yeah, not do anything to it. So this is there, no?
Yeah,
This fabric is already joined.
yeah.
So now you don't open it.
Okay, okay. So we'll
You
not
just
touch it or
mark,
do anything to it.
don't do anything to it. Don't open it. So on its own, in the next piece, there will be no joint.
Yeah, on the next piece. Yeah, yeah. Okay, makes sense. Got it. Thank you, ma'am.
So we have basically gone over the seams, side seams. We have created, so instead of these vertical seams that we had earlier, two side seams, vertical ones, now we have horizontal seams. Correct? Most of you have now got horizontal seams or diagonal seams. You have played around with the
Yes, ma'am.
seams. So in
So,
the
ma'am,
next class,
only we only need to add seam allowance to these pieces, right, ma'am?
yes. So you're going to keep plan your colors, plan your fabric, and place them. So on the patterns itself, I have written whether it's so I'm using two colors, a pink and a green. On the pattern itself, I have written whether what I'm doing is going to be cut in pink or green. I'm keeping a 1 centimeter allowance at the hem also, because I wanted to add to the hem a little bit. If all of you are clear, then you can also keep cutting your fabric along with what I am doing. Okay, so one piece has been cut. This part I have just flattened it. So alright. Now I'll cut the next one. Yes. Pardon? No. So because this is satin and it's very, very soft, that's why I have done a fusing to this. This is body fusing. This black color, what you're seeing, is body fusing. So I have fused the fabric. so that this fabric gets a little body. It becomes slightly more heavier and better in terms of fall. You can take a thicker satin as well. Frankly, you don't need to fuse it. If you take a medium weight fabric or a thicker fabric, then you don't need to fuse it.
Okay, ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, can you please explain more about fusing yourself?
Okay. So basically, wait a minute. I will show you what fusing is. Just give me a minute. Um, So you get different kinds of fusing in the market. So if you see this, can you see?
Yes, ma'am.
So this has got a one side which is sticky. It's not sticky like for touching, but it has got these small. These are called as micro dots, which has got a glue which gets activated when it is heated. Okay, so what happens is if you iron it on a fabric, so you have to keep this sticky side. If you can you observe this that whitish dots?
Yes, ma'am.
So this has got us Okay, are you all back? Okay, so if you are there, make sure that you have to mark all the notches and even mark the seam lines. So wherever you have seam lines, mark those also, because that also serves as a notch. It will help us put these things together. Okay. Also, another thing that you should mark is the beginning of this paper edge. Okay, that is also going to help us put these together. So like, this, so like this is here now. Okay, then for example here, so this is to mark this, mark the seam allowance on both the sides. Are you able to see? Yes.
Ma'am, do we have to add seam allowance to the part that already has seam allowance? These are not style lines.
So only the waist part will not have, will already have seam allowance. Other than that, rest everything. So actually, you don't have to add seam allowance to the parts which you already have. But in my case, that was only the waist. So that's hardly. So this is the portion where I don't need seam allowance, so I'll get rid of it. This is the waist portion, so I'll get rid of this.
Thank you.
Okay.
But
So
I was just looking at the screen. I thought that we have added extra seam allowance to the already
yeah,
existing
no,
seam
the place that we don't have, like where we already have seam allowance, that place we don't need to. So for example, I have this place and I have this is the waist, so I will remove from here.
So now we don't have to add any seam allowance around the waist here.
No, you don't have to, because it was already there. But if it was not there, then please add. If you have used the block and not added seam allowance to the waist, then you please add. It depends on what kind of thing you have created, what kind of pattern you have created. If your pattern did not have any seam allowance, or your muslin did not, basically your muslin did not have seam allowance, then you will have at the waist. Like for example, the muslin that I had created, I had kept seam allowance on the waist, so I will remove this. So this and this is going to go. See, I can see the marking also. I marked the waist previously. So places which already have seam allowance, like here and here, don't need seam allowance. The other places, these are, the rest of them are all style lines. And the hem, it's either style line or it is the hem. So that place I have marked. So even in the hemline I have marked. It's a choice. You can avoid in the hemline. It's your choice. I just wanted to add a little bit to the length. Okay.
Okay, ma'am. Got it. Thank you.
Okay. So now when everything is ready till here, now so you have to ensure that you mark these notches, all the notches, all the places where you have these style lines, mark those also, joints, and then you can go about removing your pins, because you have to go and start sticking, like attaching them to each other. So just figure out what is going to be attached where, look out your numbers. So like this was my 2, so I will, this needs to fix here, these two are going to fix together, then this is going to get fixed. This is how, see, can you see the skirt forming? So these three are in place, and then this is this. So once it's like this. So in my case, this is the back of the skirt, and the front, these and this are going to put together, so the back is going to come. So when this is kind of in place, I'll just put a few pins so that I don't, when I sit on the machine, when I sit on the sewing machine, I don't have to crack my brain too much. Okay, can you see? So can you see the formation of the back? This is the back, and this is one part of the front, the other part of the front. I'll give you a little bit overview. Okay, see, this whole thing is going to put together as a back. Okay, and then this and this put together will become the front. So I'll start from here. So this has to fix with this. So let me just start putting up pins on the notch area, so that when I sit on the sewing machine, I do not have confusion. So okay, so this has to come here, then you can mark. So this is where you will realize that these curves, when you're joining them to each other, they are in the opposite direction. Like I have to fix this to this. Now this curve, see, can you see the direction of this curve? This is outwards and this is inwards, but they have to attach to each other. And see, this is where my notch is. Now this is where I'm going to face a little bit of a tough time. So what I'll do is, these are called as mountains and valleys. This is very important, please understand. So see, I fixed this one correctly, exactly on the notch point here, and exactly on the notch point here. Okay, now this is my next point. So again I'm putting it here, and I'm putting it here. Now see the in-between portion. This part is a little tricky because this part needs to stretch out, whereas this part needs to, can you see the wavy thing? So these two will need different kinds of slashes. This one needs to open up, so we will give V slashes. I'm just showing it to you over here, but what you should actually do it is, when you're sitting on the machine, that is when you should try to give these notches. But I'll just show you. So over here, the part which needs to open up will need these kind of notches. Okay, just slashes. And the other part which needs to compress, see, can you see, this is the part, this part will need V slashes. So if you give V slashes to this, that's when it will be coming together properly. Okay, these kind of V slashes.
Ma'am,
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Your video is looking very blurry. If you don't mind, could you just click pictures of the slashes that you've done and maybe share in the group so that we can have a clear idea?
Okay. Okay, I'll give you a small video, okay, so that you're able to see it. So when these two parts have to be attached, this curve this curve this is called as the mountain and this is called as the valley. See, when they need to fix to each other, this part needs to overlap and this part needs to open up, because this is how it will go, right? So the part which needs to overlap will need these V kind of slashes, and the part which needs to compress will need these straight slashes. Sorry, the part which needs to open up will need straight slashes, and the part which needs to overlap will have the V slashes. Now this will help it open up and fit. So keeping it like that, then you can pin it up further. Making sure that you still pin it up on the seam allowance and not beyond. Also, another thing about pinning, you should always try to pin perpendicular to the seam. That way when you're stitching, you will be able to keep removing the pins as you stitch. Okay, so see, now this has fitted into this seam. And also while stitching you have to be careful, because the one which is rounded, the mountain area, that tends to give you gathers. Okay, I'll do one thing, I'll disconnect for a bit so that I might get a better network, so that you can continue to see better. And this small video I will give you right now.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
This curve is going this side and this curve is going this side. Now when they need to fix to each other, they have to go in the same direction. Now which one is the mountain and which is the valley? This is what and this is what? Which one will need to compress and which one will need to open out? So this part needs to what? Compress or open out?
Compress.
Yes. And this part needs to open out. Again, I think the video quality is gone, right?
Ma'am?
Has the video quality gone bad again?
Yes, ma'am, a little bit.
Yeah.
Ma'am, so the part that needs to open up is called the mountain curve, right?
Yeah. So it's not like really a terminology as in a pattern making terminology. It is for you to understand the concept of stitching curves. So, for okay, so now the other area where you will face a problem is this, when these two have to join to each other. Now see, they were parallel to each other while cutting, but now they are in the opposite direction. So again the same thing. So when you come here, these two have to join to each other. So till here, so when you'll stitch at this point, put the needle inside, then give a small cut on the corner, okay, like this, perpendicular, and then align these. So what will happen is when you stitch till here, they will go in the opposite direction, and then further down they will align. Okay, so do it like that and stitch this whole thing. Okay, I will stitch it and show it to you again. tricky for you. And in any case, since we are doing a tunnel, we are not really doing a very geometric box. What you can do is, like, you have this kind of a shape, and then you have the other pattern also. So you have this kind of a shape. So what you do is just blend it a little bit so that it becomes easier for you to stitch also, and also we get a blended kind of a tunnel effect. So you can blend this a little bit. So all these angles can get a little bit blended. Not, I mean, it may not be this much, it could be lesser also. Just blend it, because we are not really wanting a very sharp tunnel. We are okay with a little gradual tunnel as well. So if you, even if you blend it, this is also fine. So blend it a little bit so that you get a more smoother kind of a tunnel, and it will also help you attach them better. Okay, so one going like that, the other one also blended a little bit. So this, when they attach to each other, this will give you a little smoother tunnel. So this is the waist area, this is the back, and this is one part of the front and the other part of the front. You know? So now this and this are going to be fixed to each other. It's going to come like that. See what I was talking about, the mountain and the valley, the curves. See, one part of the curve is giving these kind of rounds, and the other part is stretching out. If these are gentle curves, you can attach them without notches. Wherever they are little sharper, then these notches help. Okay. So the next part, of course, is to flatten out all of these seams and, fix these seams properly. See, this is how it is when you're doing it with two colors. This is what it is looking like at the moment. Okay. Now this part is like the back, and now when this is going to attach here, this these two, this tubular structure will form over here. So now I'm left with attaching this, right? Is it becoming clear? So this is going to attach here, then this part gets completed, and this is going to attach here. So only when these two are going to get fixed to each other, right, see this. So this will attach here, and this will attach here. Okay, and I'll flatten out and iron out the seams. Without ironing, this is like this. So remember, all seams should always be, you should always flatten them, iron them like this, and iron out the seams nicely while it's open, and then fix these to each other. All clear? Should I proceed with the next part?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. This is the back, this is the front part of it. After joining, this is how it's come out. And if you straighten up, it's going to come out like this. So see, this is going to form a tunnel. I'll just iron this, put it on the dress form, and I'll show it to you. Okay? You getting what I'm showing?
Yes, ma'am.
टूटा हुआ है giant fell down. Okay, you can see now. So that's the tunnel kind of an opening which has been created, and I've kept the opening for the waist over here. So one of the seam itself, I've just kept it as an opening. Okay, this can be fixed with a zip, or I can fix it with buttons. So this can be where the opening could be, because it's just following the seam. So the smoother you will iron it, the smoother it can come. Alright. Now this, if you want, this can stay out as well, but I don't think that's going to really look attractive. So for this case, the same technique is used if you're making a box kind of a structure. Is it clear to everyone? I hope you will be able to complete.
Yes, ma'am.
Alright, then I'll leave you to it for now. If there's anything you want to ask, you can ask me.
Ma'am, I have two questions.
Yeah.
Ma'am, I was thinking now, looking at